Hello, hello. Make sure my make sure my audio's working. All right. Let's get back to it. As soon as I recalibrate my model. Hello? Come on. Okay. Let's get back to the story. Okay. Continue. Yes. The phone suddenly rang. I woke up in a hurry. The clock read 9 p.m. Dang it! I slept past the time I was supposed to report in. I picked up the receiver. Akasaka-sama, you have a call from an outside line. Shall I connect you? Thank you for the alert, Kimono. It's from a coworker named Kano-sama. I knew it. I didn't call in, so they had phoned me. Sorry. Please put them through. Understood. I'll connect you, so please hang up the receiver for the time being. After I had put down the receiver for a few seconds, the phone began to ring again. Yes, hello? This is Akasaka. Akasaka-kun, this is Kano. Good work out there. You didn't call in for your regular reports, so we called instead. What's your situation? Leaving the lecture for later, my senior coworker got straight to the point. Today, I went to the village proper. Under the guise of a tourist, I managed to establish contact with the mayor and several other core members of the Guardians. I wasn't able to ask them anything, but I left a good impression and was able to make a bridge for my investigation from tomorrow onwards. I see. It looks like things are going smoothly. Akasaka-kun, you seem rather naive sometimes, but that might have worked in your favor. I guess you made some good progress for now? I don't have the experience to make a comparison, so I don't know if it's that good or not. I think things went well for today, though. Did you find out anything from the prefectural or local offices? Does it look as though the Onigafuchi Guardians is unrelated to this incident? I still didn't know. I should have been able to say that immediately. I only had to say that, but for some reason, I hesitated. I'm still investigating, so I don't know what to say yet. I see. Could you let us know as soon as possible? I think you understand, but after tonight, it'll have been 4 full days since the kidnapping happened. They didn't set a time limit, but it's obvious that time is not on our side. I think you know that. Yeah, I know. I'll investigate a little quicker, while still being careful about it. Okay. Be sure to look after yourself. You're dealing with a violent organization here. It might be dangerous to let your guard down. If you feel that you're in any danger, contact me immediately. In that case, I can get the local public safety office prepared to help you. Thank you. I'll do my best. Anything else to report? I reported several bits of supplementary information, and at the very end, I decided to ask. How's the investigation going on your end? Everybody's doing their best here, but we're not making much progress. After all, the number of organizations we're investigating is vast. So, if you find out the one you're investigating is in the clear, we'll have you return to Tokyo to assist some of the other officers. The chief is saying to dig up what you can on Onigafuchi, but I don't think a residential anti-dam protest group has any relation to this incident at hand. Sending somebody out just to investigate a single group makes me cringe, really. At this point, he was just complaining. He was telling me to stop taking time enjoying my trip, to finish up and get back quickly. I'll try and resolve this as soon as I can. Thanks. I'm counting on you. Well then, if there's nothing else, I'm hanging up. Okay. That's all I have. As we were ending our call, he scolded me thoroughly for being late with my regular report. After that, I hung up the phone and sprawled out on the bed. Come to think of it, I hadn't heard anything from Ooishi. He was supposed to contact me about a time and place to meet with the informant tonight. I thought about getting angry with Ooishi in retaliation for being scolded for forgetting my daily report. Come to think of it, though, Ooishi didn't really say anything other than that he was going to call tonight. Waiting for a phone call when you didn't know what time it was going to come was, in itself, rather difficult. Just when I thought that, the phone rang. I picked up the receiver in a hurry. Hello? Well, this is a surprise. Akasaka-san, you're pretty quick to answer the phone. Are you a regular user of dating chat lines or something? I would never even try something seedy like that. The way you overreact is rather interesting. Wanna go to a place where you can have a little bit of lewd fun? I'll pass. So could you please get to the point, Ooishi-san? Really? Too bad. We'll leave that for next time, then. Well, I'll get to the point. Many of the executives in the Onigafuchi Guardians had a lot of sway in the neighboring regions. Even in Okinomiya, there were a lot of people with relations in the village. That's why meeting in the Shishibone Market District, far from Okinomiya, was a matter of course. Akasaka-san, over here. Did you get a little lost? Coming from the north entrance might have been a bit of a detour, but it was easier to give directions from there. No, I'm sorry for being late. Did you eat dinner already? Yeah, I already did. Well then, shall we go to a place where we can get a drink? Do you prefer Western alcohol? Or maybe sake? Would you prefer a place with or without women? Don't worry about it. I don't drink while I'm on the job. Hearing that, the man that Ooishi had brought along bent backwards as he guffawed, clapping Ooishi on the shoulder. See? Isn't he just adorable? In exchange, can you give him a bit extra? That money all came from this guy's wallet, you know. The man that Ooishi had brought seemed almost like a ticket scalper or a bookie. Even his appearance was dubious. The informant grinned deviously. Hey, boy. How much did you give this guy? It looks like there was quite a bit skimmed off the top, you know. Ooishi's handling fee was included, so I took that into account. It seemed that the informant had expected a more extravagant reaction on my part. When I responded matter-of-factly, he realized that I was an entirely different type of person than he was. But rather than putting a distance between us, it seemed that I had piqued his interest. I said it, didn't I? He's the serious type. But do you see, Akasaka-san? People in a line of work like ours can really use their wealth of experience to their advantage. I'm wondering exactly how the experience of drinking in a bar with women would work to my advantage. The informant, unable to contain himself, clutched at his stomach as he guffawed, heedless of the people watching. Oh lordy, Akasaka-san, you really can judge people. That's what an education does for you. Ooishi-san, you've been drinking somewhere, haven't you? Are you drunk? What's wrong with drinking when I'm off duty? Even if you're working, I'm not. Ooishi, who was the sort that'd fool around to begin with, was in such a good mood, I couldn't figure out a way to deal with him. Completely different than me, who had come worried about getting every bit of information I could. Oishi-san, after taking so much money, you were supposed to get me information worth at least as much. I thought this, but then realized that I was getting my information from the informant, so it didn't matter how drunk Oishi was. It was nothing I could complain about, but I still felt slightly riled up. Oishi and the informant. It was no doubt a fake name, but he introduced himself as Sato, led the way deeper and deeper into the back streets of the market district. Even though the market was bustling, a couple of turns off the main street and you were in a desolate alleyway. Oishi started climbing a set of stairs on the side of a seedy building. There wasn't any sort of signage, so I couldn't tell if the place was open or if it was even a store at all. Don't worry, this isn't a dubious place. Those words, coming from Oishi's mouth, had absolutely no credibility. Beyond the door was, thankfully, a typical mahjong parlor. I was relieved that it wasn't the sort of suspicious place I had to be on my guard about. Welcome, welcome! Oh, Oishi-san, it's been a while! Wanna join in? There'll be a free spot soon. No, I'm here with a group today, so it's fine. Oh, sorry to keep you waiting. Mahjong is a game played with 4 people. It seemed that a middle-aged man who was going to be our 4th had already arrived and was waiting for us. You're late, Kuraudo. I was just thinking of going home. Oishi made an excuse for why we had taken so long. Eventually, realizing that I was a new face, the other man grew interested. That's Akasaka-san. He's a rookie who came all the way from Tokyo on assignment. They have high hopes for him. Boy, can you play mahjong? Well, I played a bit when I was a student. Sato and the old man cackled in unison. Their plot to sucker me out of my money was painfully obvious. I thought you'd be a bit tired from your assignment leaving you on edge all the time. So I thought I'd give you a night to cleanse your spirit. I know asking this now might be stupid, but we're all police, aren't we? Well, let's not talk about that. Loosen up a bit. We won't actually gamble anything. We're just deciding who's going to pay for everyone to go play at a very nice place afterward. Go play? At what kind of place would you be doing that? Without reservation, the 3 of them started suggesting places like cabarets, high-class clubs, and even brothels. At the very least, they were the type of place that you couldn't go to with money that was just for funsies. Oishi-san took all my money the other day, and I also have work to do, so I can't stay for long. Then all you have to do is win. If you win, then you won't have to pay for this table, and you can talk to Kuraudo about work or whatever. No matter what happened, it seemed like they were intent on playing mahjong for free. I would have to fasten my resolve a bit. If I was going to be underestimated like this, forever it was going to get in the way. If I was going to be underestimated like this forever, it was going to get in the way of my work. I understand. Then I'll play with you guys for just a bit. If I win, you guys don't get any of the money or get to go to any of those dirty places, and we talk about work right away. Yeah, bring it on. If I win, we're headed straight to the Blue Mermaid on Flower Road. This old lech here likes that place too. Of course, we're going to hop between all the places where they keep the girls coming. Akemi-chan! These guys, I cannot with them. What about you, Sato-san? I'd prefer a place where we can drink quietly. Like a nice quiet place with a bunny girl? The last time we went drinking, you pulled the tail right off that bunny girl, didn't you? Didn't you end up having to pay for that? The owner started a bottle of Dom Perignon. Ink? I don't know how to read that, I don't know alcohol. On my tab and called it a tailoring fee. What a lively table this was. I could tell the other customers were glaring at us while we loudly continued our crude conversation. Speaking of which, the fact that they assumed I was the same was a bit disheartening. Oishi had taken all the money I'd brought, so everything I had left was out of my own pocket. In addition, there wasn't that much left of that either. If I kept on hanging around him like this, through his goading, my wallet would disappear into the night. I had to somehow win and return the conversation to my job. But these people, no matter how you looked at it, were pretty good. Sorry, Yukie. Nah, ha, ha, ha. Well then, I'll just call Riichi here. Well, the old man and Sato-san probably won't fall for this silly Riichi. I wonder if Akasaka-kun will spit out what I need. At any rate, Kuraudo's hand is probably holding something like that, huh? In that case, this one ought to go through. There. Oh-ho! The old man's pretty good. He's quietly trying to use one of my safe tiles to complete his hand, isn't he? It seems that Akasaka-kun has at least learned the ropes when it comes to guarding against someone's Riichi. But that will be his downfall. What's wrong, boy? Would you hurry up and discard? If you're not sure, anything that Kuraudo's already thrown away should be safe, no? Ooh, Akasaka-kun's really fretting over this one. It was glaringly obvious that he had a safe tile to discard, but he didn't want to throw it away because it would move him further from completing his hand. They're so nice when they're young and innocent. Come on, hurry up and throw out the kicker. If he gave me the winning tile, we'd be heading to an establishment where I could do all sorts of licking and sucking. If he gives the old man his winning tile, we'll be headed straight to the place with maids and bloomers. This will go through, right? He looked up as he hesitantly threw out a tile that was... oh, too bad. Hey now, that's a dangerous tile, you know. Kuraudo, does that go through? Yeah, it will. It seemed this time you were lucky. But as long as the round kept going, I could still win off the draw. But after that, Akasaka-kun managed to luckily avoid throwing any bad tiles, and somehow the round managed to end without anybody completing a hand. Senpai. Senpai. Milton. Sato-san had keenly anticipated the two players were in Riichi and had decided to play it safe. What a cool-headed way of playing. Now let's see. What kind of hand did Akasaka-kun have? When the round ends with nobody winning in mahjong, anybody in Tenpai has to show their hand. But if you're not in Tenpai, you have no obligation to reveal it. Your average beginner would normally show their hand even if they weren't in Tenpai, and start a commotion about how, if this tile or that tile came, they would have been in Tenpai. But he didn't. Being stingy. How'd you do, boy? Come on and show me. Sato-san reached over to flip the hand that Akasaka-kun had casually placed face down. What the hell is this? He was nowhere near Tenpai. Was Akasaka-kun totally bad at this after all? Right then, as the old man compared the tiles from Akasaka-kun's hand to the discard pool, a puzzled expression crossed his face. Boy, you were in Tenpai right around here, weren't you? Why'd you break your hand? The higher Manzu tiles suddenly got more valuable, so I held them back. even though the chance they were safe tiles had increased with respect to Oishi-san's Riichi. It would have been safer to read the discards, but there was a player who went out of their way to keep the tiles out of play. Oh? So Kurado's Tenpai was no good from the start, in other words. If it wasn't such a high-level trap, I would have thought that you were waiting for me to throw out the winning tile. But the more concerning thing is that you were in Tenpai and didn't say anything. When did you realize I was in Tenpai? Around here? You threw out 4 tiles in a row immediately. At first I thought you were just discarding redundant tiles, but I noticed you glancing over at me and realized you were waiting for something. Akasaka-kun. You. Akasaka-san. When did you first start playing mahjong? I never did, except in high school and university. Now let's continue. Since Sato-san wasn't in Tenpai and the round ended with without a winner, then I'm next, right? The next dealer. It seems like Akasaka-kun is really aware of how the game flows. We thought we were just going to eat him alive, but it looks like that isn't going to be so easy. Ooh, is that Akasaka? Oh. Alright then. Oh, Ishii-san, it looks like you're going for the bamboo tiles. Should I put some in play? This boy! Crowd, don't back down! As long as I get 3 more good tiles. Sato-san, think you can do it? Dang it. I'll just force you to go for a cheap tanyao. Chi! A straight? Well, sorry. I'm going to pawn that tile. Whoa now. Going to call 3 of a kind after he declared a straight? Trying to override and interfere? Boy, you're getting pretty used to this. Oh no. I couldn't even compare to you guys, who've been playing since before I was even born. That's game. Wrong. Triplets, 2 red Dora, and 3 more Dora. I'm the dealer, so this'll cost you quite a bit. Nah, Akasaka-san, nice job. Now we have to get serious, won't we? Well, can you get serious about handing over your points? I'm tired, so let's end this quickly. Akasaka-kun, this is somehow unreal. Nah. Before I could realize it, there was an ominous cold air emitting from beneath Akasaka-kun's feet. How blaze? 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 I don't know. The 2, 5, and 8 Manzus are laughing at you. Dang it! Boy, you! Crowdo, finish it! You have to end the boy's turn as dealer! I hate to admit it, but that seems like the best option. There it is! Run! Simple straights, 1 Dora. Sorry, head bump. Wrong. Straight. A head bump? You darn brat! Brat? So you'd play that sloppily against a brat? Guess that means you're worse than a brat yourself. It's so interesting. The way you guys call people things like brat and boy. Akasaka-kun? That is you, isn't it? It feels like you're a totally different person. You thought that I, being a sucker, would let you drink some good booze tonight. Seems that you were a little off the mark. Wrong. Triple straight, red Dora, and another Dora. Whoa! He actually did it! That's why I'm saying you guys are slacking. No matter how you look at it, you have to be able to read such an obvious 3-way wait. Akasaka-kun chuckled as he rested his chin in his hands. That pose was so fitting it was almost scary. Hey, Kurodo! This isn't what we discussed! Who the hell said he was a naive sucker ripe for the picking? Who could it be? Oishi-san, this is bad. If he keeps going like this, we're seriously going to lose. Akasaka-kun, for you to make me get serious, it looks like you really want to be milked dry. Pawn. Pawn. That sounds nice. One more time. Pon. Akasaka-kun was almost singing at this point. The tiles he had open were all pin tiles. You can't be serious. Are you really going for the flush? Pon. Boy, are you right in the head? You've opened 4 sets. You only have 1 tile left, you know. That's right. Did you know? Waiting on a single tile is the hardest thing to read. Are you an idiot? With that much of your hand revealed, you don't think we'd give you the tile you need, do you? I know what you're doing, Akasaka-san. That's not a flush or a half flush, is it? The fact that you called pawn 4 times means you're already in position for an all-triplet hand. Right now, you're far and away in the lead. You're trying to show a flush and goad us into giving you triplets, aren't you? If that's what you think. Want to try throwing out some pins? The left 5 tiles in your hand, Oishi-san. They're pin tiles you're reluctant to throw away, aren't they? Why don't you try discarding them in order from the left? You must be joking. Is he a mahjong god? If not, he had to be the main character of a manga or something. That moment, the old man sent me a sign under the table. The message was simple and clear. Rado, do it. Rush him. I don't like to cheat against kids like this. Idiot! After being disrespected like this, we can't pull back now. Well, I'm not responsible for what happens, you know. Go ahead. Here we go, boy. Richie! We'll go open. I'm waiting for a 1-4-7 of pins. Most likely, the tile that Akasaka-kun was waiting for was one of those tiles. With this, Akasaka-kun was no longer capable of winning the hand. When I drew from the wall, I switched out the tile that Akasaka-kun would draw. The tile that I put in was the 1 pin, one of the tiles that the old man was waiting on. Akasaka-kun discarded it a little while ago, so there was no threat of it being the one he needed. Come on, it's your turn, boy. I knew he was troubled that the tile he drew was the 1 pin. Of course, he couldn't discard it. Boy, you must be aware, but if you discard into an open Riichi, it's worth the limit, you know. You don't have to tell me that. The tile that came from Akasaka-kun's hand was an honor tile. Phew, ain't that something. There's only 1 north wind tile left, isn't there? You were counting on a really rough wait, weren't you? But with this, Akasaka-kun's fate was decided. Hehe, brat. You're lucky you're safe, but your hand only has a single tile. You think you'll be able to run away with the rest of this round? So it's going to be like that. Akasaka-kun glared at the old man with a discerning eye. This guy had pretty good instincts. Did he figure out we were cheating? Let's stop this. Akasaka-kun is a step or 2 ahead of us. Who? You think we can stop after we've come this far? Next, make him draw it. The next tile Akasaka-kun would draw was the 7 pin. With that, it would be settled. No matter which one he discarded, he'd play right into the old man's hand. An unavoidable full payout. When I drew my tile, I sneakily swapped Akasaka-san's. Achoo! Crash. What? Akasaka-kun suddenly sneezed, collapsing the wall of tiles in front of him. Hey, what are you doing? Sorry, I accidentally knocked over the wall when I sneezed. There's a penalty for that, right? I'm the dealer, so 4,000 to everybody? Or should I pay a deposit? Unable to hold back, I guffawed. Akasaka-kun, knowing he was going to be cornered a second time and unable to escape. He took the drastic measure of knocking over his own wall. You're good, boy, to get away from a full payout like that. Oishi-san, could you not bother putting me in such an obvious trap? If we were at Baba, this would have been the point where I flipped the table.
Oh, no. Sorry. I underestimated you. For some reason, you're really good, aren't you?
Answer me honestly. You've got a lot of experience when you were younger, didn't you? I played around quite a bit with Waseda and Takada no Baba. The place I frequented banned me from winning too much. I made the woman who would become my wife pretty angry, so I washed my hands of it all.
Raised the stakes too high? How much were you playing for at the time?
Depends on who I was playing with, but I had an almost perfect record playing in Kabukicho. Especially since when I played against a certain crowd, my life was on the line.
20 times? What kind of stakes were those? Did you have Yakuza at your table? Or pro baseball players?
What's this? Crowdo, you buffoon!
Where did you pull this guy from? He's practically a professional. I give up. Jeez! Boy, it's your win. I surrender.
Thank you very much. It was an honor.
Oh my. Akasaka-san, your personality really changes when you play. Why do you even have a day job? You'd have no problem living as a freelancer.
To be a pro mahjong player, you need both talent and luck. I didn't have anything like that supporting me. Luck is luck. With somebody of your skill, I think you'd be able to make it pretty far. Normal luck doesn't cut it. Calling a kan and 1 time out of 3, you can aim to win on the extra draw with 4 Dora. That kind of luck.
Akasaka-kun, if you can judge something like that, you're already bordering on the supernatural.
No, there's plenty of people who could do that without cheating or superpowers. There was a person I met in Shinjuku who would get Doras every time you blinked. He was as strong as a demon. There was a pro I played with in Yokohama who would draw the tile he needed immediately after calling Riichi like it was an everyday thing. I don't have that kind of luck.
What type of folk were those? They weren't named Ryu or Satoshi by any chance.
Well then, is it alright if I'm declared the overall winner then?
Yeah, we totally lost.
I lost. It's been a while since I lost this big. Still, when you were playing, boy, you were pretty into it. It was kinda scary. I hear that a lot. I don't mean to change gears like that, though. Did I really look that scary?
Yup.
The 3 of us nodded emphatically in agreement. So that was Akasaka-kun, the mahjong prodigy.
Before he goes home from his assignment, maybe I could have him go play at a high-stakes table in my place. But it's not good to get greedy. Well then, nothing for it. It was a promise. We'll break up our little late-night study group right now. Sorry about this, old man. That's it for tonight.
Nothing you could do. I'm going home to sleep. My body won't last like this. Problems at work?
Oh, he's the foreman of the primary construction site at the Hinamizawa Dam. He's butting heads with the residents every day.
Is this the guy that... Wait, the foreman is the one that... Is he the one that died? Or maybe he's the one that disappeared. Finally, we're getting somewhere. I understood nothing about mahjong, so that was a lot of over-the-head stuff.
It's a rough business. Around next year, I might be in charge of the second site as well. I heard that Kuroda-san was pissing blood.
He won't hold out much longer.
You'll be alright, old man. Your skull's thicker than it looks.
I'm not exactly a saint, you know. There's times that just make my blood boil. I especially can't stand dealing with that bratty daughter of Sonozaki's. I think one of these days I'm going to rearrange her face.
Now. At least the pay is good, right? I heard the wages were pretty exorbitant.
Of course they are. If the pay was cheap, nobody would hang out around that god-awful job. Hey, Crowdo, exactly when are the police going to tell all the villagers to shove off? There will be a notice of eviction from the government, right?
Maybe. I wonder what will happen.
The old man, who identified himself as the foreman of the Hinamizawa Dam, spewed a few complaints until he felt better about it, and then left quickly.
Well then, let's go. I'll leave the rest to Sato-san.
Oishi-san, are you going home?
If I'm here, I'll just be in the way, won't I? Besides, the one who bought Sato-san's services was you. I didn't pay for my share.
Oishi-san was kind of sketchy, but he was strangely conscientious about some things. I felt quite a bit of a gap between myself and Oishi's generation from that part of him I didn't comprehend. Then, boy. No, I can't call Mr. Mahjong here boy no more. Is Akasaka-kun all right with you? Yes. Then, Akasaka-kun, shall we go?
Well then, Akasaka-san. Later. If you're having any trouble, you can count on me any time.
I don't have any more money to pay you. You know that?
Okay, if you go easy on me the next time, we'll be even. Nah ha ha ha.
Oishi, seemingly still not having had his fill of playing around, but without overstaying his welcome, disappeared into the night. Give me some plot, game. Give me plot. That is what I want. The informant, named Sato-san, had me get into his car before he set off. He favored narrow roads and made numerous short left turns. Checking if we're being followed?
Yeah, you know a lot about this.
Checking to see if you were being tailed by making left turns was a rather classic technique. If it was just a single pursuer, you could confirm it that way. But if you were being tailed as a team, this archaic method wouldn't let you shake them. Of course, doing it anyway was better than not.
I didn't hear anything from the boss as to who you are, Akasaka-kun.
Related to the police?
If you're familiar with checking for being tailed, the only other possibility I could think of is something like a private detective.
If it's not something I have to say, I'd like to refuse to answer that question.
My. Ever since we played mahjong, you seem a lot more mature. I wonder where the hesitant person went from when we first met.
I smiled wryly. Looking back now, I had to be a little grateful for being made to play mahjong. Thanks to that, I was able to relieve some tension. Eventually, Sato-san, confirming that there were no cars following us, slipped outside the city. We were on a pitch-black country road, unable to see anything besides the lights outside. The only things I was able to hear were the hum of the car's air conditioning and the chirping of insects and frogs.
I heard from the boss that you wanted to hear a bit about Hinamizawa Village, yeah?
Like about the old houses known as the Three Families who control the place. Or that, right now, it's pretty much the Sonozaki family running things.
If you know that much already, I'll cut the introductions.
Then, if you would, can you confirm or deny if the Onigafuchi Guardians is involved with the kidnapping of Minister Inukai's grandson? Sato-san checked the rearview mirror one more time to confirm there wasn't anybody behind us before speaking. Last night, the Sonozaki main house held a family council.
Did you hear about it from the boss?
No.
If it was a normal meeting, then it would just be all the relatives coming together over a nice cup of tea or something. But a family council held by the main house isn't quite so relaxed.
A family council held by the Sonozaki main house. That would be a meeting between those who truly controlled Hinamizawa Village. They wouldn't be talking about private family matters. It would be about the village as a whole. About organizing activities against the dam project. Among other things, everything would be decided there. In reality, they were deciding the fate of the village. At the head of the meeting was Oryo Sonozaki. More or less called Empress Sonozaki, as the ultimate decision-maker of the clan, she was to be feared and respected. Infirm with old age, she was often unable to stand on her own, but her words carried enough weight to sway the fate of the village. It seemed that lately she had grown weak, and on days where she wasn't feeling well, remained bedridden. Family councils that occurred while she wasn't feeling well took place with her on the floor. In the middle of a dignified Japanese-style room, still in a futon, only the upper half of her body sitting upright, a stern look on her face. That was Oryo Sonozaki. Sitting next to her was her heir, Mion Sonozaki. She was still young. No, young wasn't quite the right word. She was a girl who remained childish. Her role was to merely sit beside Oryo Sonozaki, sometimes responding to her requests. However, she was the only one deemed worthy to succeed Oryo. She had the same hawkish eyes, enough to give pause to anybody who so much as looked at them. Much was expected of her in the future, this granddaughter of the Sonozaki's leader. And, also on either side of her, sat several other important members of the remaining three families, the Kimiyoshi family and the Furude family. First on the list of the Kimiyoshi family was, of course, the mayor of Hinamizawa village, Kiichiro Kimiyoshi. And lined up beside him were several more of his direct relatives. Opposite to them sat the other of the three families, the Furude family. The Furude family was only comprised of the family of a Shinto priest, so the only ones sitting there were said priest, his wife, and their daughter Rika. Rika was doted on by many of the older folks in the village, and it seemed that Oryo was no exception. While the stress from just attending a family council was said to be enough to shorten your lifespan by 3 days, it seemed like Rika was the only one exempt from that. No matter how charged the atmosphere was around her, she paid it no mind, instead humming along as she doodled in a sketchbook. In fact, the night before, lying on her stomach while humming and doodling, she nonchalantly tucked her legs into Oryo's futon like it was a kotatsu. All this was the three families. And all around the room, lined row upon row, were relatives of the Sonozaki family. The only ones who were afforded cushions to sit on were direct relatives. The others were left to sit in the seiza position directly on the tatami mats. With Empress Sonozaki enshrined at their center, they were almost like a giant snake coiled around the room. It was decided that everybody would sit in order of their rank. The number of people from the Sonozaki family was overwhelming. The fact that the Sonozaki family held so many seats at a meeting where everything pertaining to the village was decided made determining where the balance of power was held in the three families as clear as day. The number of members in attendance from each of the families directly reflected how much influence they had in ruling Hinamizawa. What was talked about at that meeting? Sato-san, after remaining silent for a while, quietly began to speak. Wasn't our monetary gift of appreciation to the media a little large? Breaking the long moment of silence was the head of the Kimiyoshi family, Kiichiro Kimiyoshi. The Onigafuji Guardians wasn't a business. They were nothing more than a private organization pushing for the cancellation of the Hinamizawa Dam project with no reliable source of income. Fundraising had always been a problem. When they first started operating, they had managed to collect a sizable amount of funds through donations, but as the conflict dragged on, that amount was steadily declining. This isn't an era where you can get what you want just by throwing rocks. It's very important you don't underestimate the power of the media, and we want to borrow some of that down the road. The expressions of the people related to the Sonozaki family were sullen. As the one who suggested that they should borrow the power was the family head, Oryo Sonozaki. The battle wasn't just about force of arms. In this civilized age, there were civilized methods of fighting. Oryo suggested that, creating a strategy incorporating the mass media. Oryo's foresight was spot on, and the effects of that plan, while at first unclear, slowly began to manifest. If the physical confrontation at the construction site was meant to delay the progress on the dam by even one day, then the propaganda war using the media was aimed at attacking the dam project itself. At first, there were those who had doubts about that strategy, but there was nobody now who called those results into question. But in order to maintain those media ties, a colossal amount of money was required. As long as the amount of funds they had was abundant, things would turn out fine. It couldn't be argued that it was a massive expense, but the results spoke for themselves. But, with the conflict continuing to drag on, the circumstances had changed. The head of the Sonozaki family, no, the one who sat at the pinnacle of the Hinamizawa's three families, Oryo, who had suggested the idea herself, so it was already untouchable, and continued to be allowed to drain from the budget. Nobody acknowledged that it should be so allowed, but nobody could say anything. That was the price of dealing with the mass media. What do you think, Oryo-san? The only person who could object to a plan proposed by the head of the Sonozaki household herself was probably Mayor Kimiyoshi. Oryo, with a hard-to-define expression on her face, as if she had severed herself from the fetters of mortal emotion, simply listened quietly to Kimiyoshi's words. But really, it was hard to tell if she was quietly listening, or didn't even have the intention of listening at all. Last year, we went through a lot of trouble getting people to wrap their heads around the price hike on the bulletins we were putting out. We convinced them it was just the one time. It just wouldn't do if we had another one this year. Right, Furude-san? The mayor looked to the priest and his wife from the Furude family for affirmation. The priest gave a vague expression, avoiding a prompt response. But his wife gave her answer without a second thought. That's right. The cost of the bulletins are a particularly harsh burden for the poorer families. Everybody is dealing with it for the sake of the village, but it's best we don't increase the prices anymore. The bulletin was, as its name implied, a bulletin published by the Onigafuchi Guardians. It outlined the Alliance's activities, ideals, and resolve, but you couldn't deny the contents were rather piecemeal. I don't know what that word means. That bulletin's main goal wasn't to inform people, but rather was something to sell to businesses and people living in the village or connected to it, and using those sales to collect funds. In other words, it had become something of a tax. Of course, it didn't have to be said that this was one of the main sources of income for the Onigafuchi Guardians. Originally, purchase was supposed to be voluntary, but in Hinamizawa, it had silently become the opposite. In the neighboring towns as well, it seemed that many businesses were buying copies just to avoid butting heads with the Alliance. The priest whispered to his wife to not say anything unnecessary, but it was struck down decidedly with a cold glare. Cowering from that glare, the priest shut his mouth. The priest's wife always held the power in their relationship. That was because she was the one who carried the Furude bloodline. The priest merely married into the family. He was nothing more than somebody who adopted the name just to join three families. He should have been able to find a spot fairly high up in the hierarchy of things, but the lack of authority in his voice meant that he had still not gained any favor. Casting a backwards glance at her rather disparate parents, Rika continued to doodle whimsically without paying them any mind. Signaled by a look from Oryo, Mion brought her ear closer to her grandmother. There, something was said to her in a quiet voice. After responding with a couple of questions, with a nod from Oryo, Mion looked around the room and conveyed her grandmother's words. There will be no freeze on the price increase for the bulletin. Kimiyoshi made a face like he had just bit into something unpleasant, but that expression quickly disappeared like it had never happened at all. But, Mion-chan, I think you already know this, but the cost of the bulletin is by no means easily affordable. It's a burden carried by everybody in Hinamizawa. If we make people carry too much of that burden, it's possible we'll collapse from the inside.
And who on the inside would start that collapse?
Who? I didn't mean it like that.
I'm asking, who would be the first to buckle?
Being cross-examined by a girl who still had fragments of childishness remaining within her. The words stuck in Kimiyoshi's throat as he sunk into silence. Mion repeated her question once more, looking around the crowded room. Everybody refrained from making eye contact to avoid being pierced by her gaze. The words she had spoken were unarguably said in proxy for Oryo. That's why, when Mion spoke them, they carried the same weight. But the look in her eyes was different. Like Oryo's, they had a hawkish gaze, strong enough that anybody looking upon them would freeze in their tracks and yield. But that gaze was without question one that belonged to Mion herself. As Mion would eventually inherit everything from Oryo, the day when she would stand up as a young and capable leader in her own right would come. Nobody wanted to believe otherwise for even a minute. That's why nobody even thought of Mion as just some sort of little kid. Kimiyoshi-san, nobody will lose their resolve over something like a price hike on the bulletin. Kimiyoshi, while grumbling a little bit, made a gesture as if to say he had no objection. The expenses related to the mass media will continue. If those expenses become too much, we'll have no choice but to continue the price hikes. Mion had rendered her judgment. Everybody bowed their heads, silently listening to her words.
In the name of Mion Sonozaki, acting as the head of the Sonozaki family, I hereby declare that all this shall be effective immediately. There shall be no objections, and any opposition shall be removed by force.
The formal decree was read aloud, indicating her judgment. There would be no retrial, but there was a certain authority behind those words that even a courthouse couldn't compare to. If she was a judge, she would have banged her gavel, signaling that the matter was settled. Mion pulled out a large bell from inside her clothes and rang it. Everybody present could only prostrate themselves before the harsh sound of that bell. Well, that's a rather old-fashioned family council, isn't it? A young guy like you would probably find it hard to believe. In an antiquated place like this, these types of things have firm roots. It was exactly as Oishi had said. The old system of the three families had vanished, and now the Sonozaki family was running things by themselves. On top of that, their rule was borderline despotic. Was that the end of the meeting? No, there's more. I'll continue. Eventually, after the ringing of the bell ceased, there was deafening silence. Within all of that, a lone man shuffled closer to Mion and whispered something in her ear. Mion asked several questions quietly in response. When she was satisfied, she motioned for the man to leave. The man who talked to Mion was a member of a gang that her father was the leader of. That organization had the entire area of Shishibone City under its control, so it was quite well known even here. Of course, this was talking about the criminal underworld, so it's not just like anybody would know. But just showing a patch with a gang symbol on it was enough to resolve any disputes in the neighborhood. Mion's biological father, to Oryo, was her daughter's husband. The power of that man's gang was the driving force that controlled the dark underbelly of the Onigafuchi Guardians. And so that man, from his position as the next in line to control the three families, continued to coerce everybody around him with his unconventional presence. Mion exchanged a look with her father. Was it okay for her to tell what she had just heard directly to Oryo? It looked like she was asking him that question. Her father gently, but firmly, nodded his response. Mion also nodded, then sidled up to Oryo and informed her of something. Eventually, Mion finished conveying her message, separated herself from Oryo, and fixed her posture, waiting for Oryo to signal her response. It wasn't often that Oryo showed any emotion. That's why, when she started to laugh quietly, a vague sense of uneasiness crept over everybody in the room. That's quite the conundrum, isn't it? Oryo was laughing so happily that Kimiyoshi had to hesitantly ask. What is it, Oryo-san? If this land is like a mother to us, then this business with the dam is like somebody threatening our mother's life, isn't it? Kimiyoshi, unable to comprehend the meaning of her words, looked confused. Oryo, with a wide grin on her face, turned towards everybody and addressed them in a clarion voice. The minister behind the dam project is apparently rattled over the kidnapping of his grandson. That makes us even. That's absurd! Information on the kidnapping of Minister Inukai's grandson shouldn't have been leaked from anywhere. How did they know? Even we didn't know much about the kidnapping incident. Exactly how did an antiquated household so far away from Tokyo come to know of it? It was a tranquil place, but I couldn't help but have an uneasy feeling about Hinamizawa Village. At some point, I had mentally filed this place away as unrelated to the incident at hand. That mental paperwork had just been blown away in the wind. How did the Onigafuchi Guardians know about that? Sato-san, unable to come up with an answer, fell into silence. I'm sorry. Please continue. Sure. The Minister of Construction's grandson was kidnapped? Oryo-san, is that true? That major of an incident was nowhere to be seen in the newspapers or on TV. But in Hinamizawa, there was nothing strange about Oryo knowing something that the rest of the world didn't. Our pain is the pain of losing a mother. I don't think it completely makes up for it, but the pain of losing a grandchild. He'll have to bear with that for a bit. Don't you think? The last question wasn't addressed to anybody in particular. It was as if she was looking for consensus. Still, land and a human child are different things. I don't mind hiding him here, but I want no harm to befall him. The child isn't to blame. Make sure to keep that in mind. That means that the Onigafuchi Guardians were involved in the kidnapping. I can't say for certain. Why? Even though their leader, Oryo, was clearly giving orders on the treatment of the kidnapped child. Lad, you see, this is what the Sonozaki family always does. Always does? What do you mean by that? Let's say there was a particular problem. One that wasn't exactly favorable for the Sonozaki family. If Oryo shows concern over that particular problem, hearing that, somebody who attended the family council would be helpful. As a result, Oryo's wish would be granted. However, neither Oryo nor anybody else would know who actually did it. With this kind of clever little ploy, the Sonozaki family was able to manipulate events, even though they had their hands laid out on the table. Then, that means that somebody who was at the family council was the culprit. Or there's a possibility that there was never a culprit in the first place. Oryo herself, in that room full of people, didn't explicitly say that somebody pulled off the kidnapping. She was just giving her opinion. It was an odd and unpleasantly secretive way of doing things. Were they involved? Or weren't they? I couldn't see beyond the veil. This much, however, I could say with certainty. This kidnapping was an ironclad secret. No matter how high a position somebody was in, even they wouldn't know about it. If there was somebody who would know about it, they would be connected to public safety. In other words, one of us. The only other options were people connected to the case itself. Including the minister, there would be people affected by the incident. Or the people that committed it. In any case, there was no way an old household in a place removed from Tokyo by over 6 hours of highway travel should know about it. Them knowing at all was already strange. My suspicions began to accumulate, like falling snow. That's as much as Oryo said in regards to the kidnapping. Hopefully what you wanted to find out was in there. After this, it's up to you. I don't know what kind of work you're doing, but if you're going up against the Sonozaki family, you'd best prepare yourself. Oishi might be fearless, but even he's been attacked 2 or 3 times. He hasn't been wearing it lately, but at one point he was wearing a stab-proof vest while off duty. Oh? Thanks for the warning. I'll be careful. You speak pretty well. Are you from Tokyo by any chance? Huh? What's your point? Investigators were always close to danger. It was best not to divulge any information on myself. Your job. Could you possibly be somebody from the Metropolitan Public Safety Division? Sato sus! I couldn't remain silent here. It would be the same thing as admitting it. Huh? No way. This wasn't accounted for in the money I got from the boss. But as somebody who played at the same table today, I'll give you this one as a freebie. After Oryo talked about the kidnapping, there was one other topic that came up. Another topic that Oryo brought up? And right before he told me this, Sato-san asked if I was from the Metropolitan Public Safety Division? In other words, what those 2 things meant caused a chill to run up my spine. So you see, that in order to investigate the kidnapping of the minister's grandson, there's word that there will be an investigator from public safety dispatched all the way from Tokyo. An investigator from public safety? They can't be reckless and make a big deal over the kidnapping, so it seems the Metropolitan Public Safety Division is investigating this on their own. Ain't that grand? What is it? Rika, who had been drawing the entire time and was completely uninterested in the conversation up until now, looked at Oryo with an interested face as soon as the topic of public safety came up.
Did the Metropolitan Police come?
Oh, so Rika-chama knows about the Metropolitan Police Department? That's very admirable.
Who came?
Is there anybody that knows what kind of guy from public safety came here? Mion's father raised his hand slightly. I heard it's a nice young piece of fresh meat.
Fresh meat? Is it nice and tender?
Yeah, it is. Fresh meat. Mion's father smiled wryly as he answered Rika's question.
Tender and tasty?
Yeah.
Tender and tasty.
Rika smiled with interest. Why did Rika suddenly act interested only when it came to this topic? That was a question that apparently nobody had the answer to.
Does Rika-chama know something about this man?
I don't know.
After her rather flat reply, Rika buried herself under Orio's futon again. But when she buried herself in there, Rika no longer started drawing again. Instead, she was making an expression like she was deep in contemplation.
What shall we do about him, Mother?
Mion's father posed the question. He had the type of uncouth expression on his face indicating that, if given the order, he could snuff the problem out at any time.
He came all the way to Hinamizawa. Let him take it easy for a little while.
So you're saying to just let him go around as he pleases?
Mion's father asked in response. Oreo smiled thinly as she responded.
Leave him alone. But if he starts causing too much mischief, when that happens, don't hold back. I don't enjoy being taken lightly.
Is what they talked about, apparently. It couldn't be that you're that fresh meat from the Metropolitan Police, are you?
It couldn't be.
The sensation of cold, bristling fear began to crawl its way up my back. This family council took place last night. In other words, yesterday. Then, today, when I was dressed up as a tourist heading towards Inamizawa, my cover was already blown. When I remembered the first person I met when I got to the bus stop, I couldn't breathe. The person at the family council who expressed interest in the man being dispatched from the Metropolitan Police, Rika Furude. And then, the person who was waiting for me the whole time in the bus shelter, Rika Furude. It was an unthinkable image. No, it was a delusion. When we met at the bus shelter, did Rika-chan already know my true identity? Did she know that I was Akasaka, dispatched from the Metropolitan Police Department, and come to meet me? Then, including Mayor Kimiyoshi, every villager that I met, everybody knew, but just pretended not to? Because Oreo had given instructions not to interfere? Thinking about it logically, it didn't seem possible. I met quite a number of people. If there's people that are good at acting, then there's people who are bad at hiding things. If there was that many people, then there should have been somebody among them who knew I was from the public safety and couldn't hide their hostility. However, I didn't feel any presence like that. But then, even still, why did Oreo tell them to leave me alone? Was it because if they were careless about it, it would only raise more suspicion? Or was it because they believed a rookie like me wouldn't be able to find anything? Akasaka is a coward. I recalled that strange voice which could only make me believe that Rika-chan had been possessed. That unknown entity, no matter how you looked at it, knew my true identity from the get-go. And then, how did it warn me again? That's right. It warned me to hurry up and go back to Tokyo. Instead of the realistic worry that the Onigafuchi Guardians had discovered my identity, the absurd worry brought on by the unknown girl stuck with me more. What exactly was that girl? What was the thing I would eventually regret? I can read. That mysterious girl. Rika Furude. Let's stop this.
Everything I was thinking of right now was merely conjecture. Tomorrow, first thing in the morning, I'll report everything I heard right now to HQ and await further orders. There was no mistaking that the possibility the Onigafuchi Guardians were related to the case was there. And that the fact that my cover was blown meant that I was in a precarious position. But as everybody at HQ was already extremely busy, they might not be able to spare the support. Is that everything? If you want, I can drop you off wherever you'd like. Sorry. In that case, the station where we originally met, please. A rural road where even a streetlight was rare. I couldn't see anything. I wasn't aware of anything but the asphalt that was lit up by the headlights. Outside of that light, was it simply darkness? Or was there something lurking there, waiting to strike? I had to think I drew the short straw here. I wanted to go back to Tokyo. For some reason, the voice of the girl warning me to go back to Tokyo still lingered in my head. I mean, we know he doesn't die, but trauma? What's in the box? What's in the box? What's in the box? Alright, put this one first. The investigation runs aground. Yeah. Yesterday, when we met at the restaurant in Ginza, that topic popped up. That's overstepping their boundaries, isn't it? They're meddling too much with public safety. If they keep doing that, they're going to set a bad precedent. It seems that Minister Inukai is openly uncomfortable about the way public safety is doing things. The Vice Minister is probably going to say something to that effect during Monday's debate session. But what can you do? We can only have the director address the Vice Minister. That's why we pay him the big bucks. Well, if it comes to that, they're going to ask him for proof that the minister's being threatened. Sometimes I don't know what side he's on. If he's not on ours, then what? Well, he's probably getting some pressure from the minister. We'll probably just have to proceed with the investigation while he sweats it out in the Vice Minister's office and buys us some time. He might get so wrung out to dry that all there'll be left are dregs, though. So, how's the investigation going? All the juicy leads I was pinning my hopes on turned out to be duds. Honestly, I'm at a loss. There are reports that the Hinamizawa Dam project has been showing up a lot lately in the minister's press releases, so what about that? Well, you say showing up, but it's really more of a very slight feeling that something's strange. He just happened to mention it during his speech at the XX Prefectural Forum, so it just might have been something that he was mentioning because it was relevant at the time. If I remember correctly, a local organization was protesting quite violently, no? The Onigafuchi Guardians. I think Akasaka-kun was investigating that. I think those guys could possibly be behind what's happening now. Even if we can't say there's anything overtly suspicious about them, it might not be prudent to remove them from the picture. Akasaka-kun reported in passing that he couldn't deny that possibility. Then isn't there merit in investigating them? We're going through everything with a fine-tooth comb, so if they're the one of the suspicious groups that are left, we'll eventually have to. Well, they're not the only group we should investigate, right? If we're just talking about groups that are as suspicious as Onigafuchi, there's quite a few of them. We don't have the men, the time, or the money for it all. I'll try asking for more details from Akasaka-kun. I feel like we should pay some extra attention to these guardians. He's reported that he's established a rapport with the villagers. It also seems that he's collaborating with the local police. Keep your contact with Akasaka-kun on the down low. Also, if there's anything in his info that merits investigation, it's possible that we can send reinforcements. Got it. Sorry, Chief Kataoka, there's a phone call from the director. Should I transfer it over here?
No, it's okay. I'll head over there. Yes, hello? So they are open to sending backup. Alright, what's in the box? What's in the box? Do you believe that there are choices in life? There are many people who lament the following. If there only existed points in life where there were clear choices to make, we would be able to scrutinize those carefully and make decisions that would lead us to a better future. Every time I hear people lament as such, I cast it off as rather trivial worry. Even if you were given a clear choice, it wouldn't be meaningful at all, and there wouldn't be any such path to a better future. Is this hard to understand? Then let's pretend that in front of you there are two strange boxes. In other words, you have two clear choices. Do you open the red box or the blue box? A lot of things would be uncertain even with that choice, wouldn't they? If you don't have the option of opening neither, then your choice boils down to the natural impulse of opening the box that holds the better result for you. Then, after examining the shape and features of each and pondering a great many things, you have to pick either the red or the blue. If this was you, which box would you open? Red or blue? If you were to go by their traditional meanings, then red would be a dangerous, threatening color. However, that doesn't automatically mean that it would be calm and relaxing inside the blue box either. In fact, it might even be that the colors are a trap, making you wary of the red box and have you open the blue. A trap? Could it be the contents of the box aren't a reward, but rather a penalty? See? Now you're at a loss. You're so conflicted over the choice between red and blue that you've started wishing there was an option to open neither and just leave. But there isn't. You have to open either the red box or the blue box. Oh, I forgot to say this, but if you choose one box, the other will disappear. So you'll never know the contents of the box you don't open. I'll just put that rule at the end there for you. Now, why don't you choose? The red box or the blue box? It's alright, you won't lose anything by picking either one. Come on now. It's a choice! Okay, wait. Red pill? You say red? Okay. Red pilled or blue pilled? Ooh, now there's an option. Okay. I did quick save. What will she do? I am tempted to go for the blue because they made it sound really sussy, and I like blue. What are we thinking? Are we down for blue? I really hope this quick save worked. I want to open both. I want to open both, but they won't let me save it. I'm so He just got back and you have no idea what this box is or the context. So this is the tips. We've reached the end of the chapter and they're just like, red box or blue box, something's gonna happen. They may not be good, they may be penalties, but you have to pick one. So we don't really have that much context either. It's just red or blue. Blue cause I'm blue. Alright, we're going blue. Have you thought about it? In the end, you chose this color, didn't you? As soon as you chose, the other box disappeared. So you can give up on the contents of that one, okay? That's the rule. Now open up the box you chose. Inside the box, there was a stick of chewing gum. I know you're a little disappointed. Well, that's only natural. No matter how you looked at it, it looks like you drew the dud. The correct box might have had a bar of chocolate in it for all you know. No, in fact, something incredible like a pair of tickets to Hawaii might have been in there. But even if you wanted to verify that, the other box has already disappeared. There's no way you can check now. But if you think about it from an optimistic point of view, just maybe, the other box was empty, and this box was the winner. And being satisfied, or perhaps not, with such a cheap prize, You pop it in your mouth and start chewing it happily. So what do you think in the end? If you were given a second chance, would you try to open up the other box? But unfortunately, the chance to choose between the red box or the blue box has come and gone, never to be seen again. The chance to change your selection will never come. Don't your parents often say, every choice you make in life only happens once, so choose carefully? See? Choices aren't that great after all. Aren't you a little disillusioned now? Wow, I think they intentionally made it so that I couldn't save state there. That's kind of upsetting. The glint in the demon's eye. Uh-huh, yes. So the wake will be from 6 p.m. tomorrow, and the service will be the day after from noon until 1. The venue will be Okinomiya Ceremony Hall. I see. It's Deputy Mayor Ikezawa's grandson's funeral we're talking about. We have to pay our respects. Mion, I'll have you go in my stead. Okay, got it. Should I wear mourning clothes? How much should I bring for the funeral offering? You can go in your school uniform. Make sure you button it up properly. For the money, 50, no, 100,000 yen. They've done a lot for us. Mion quietly whistled in awe at the exorbitant amount of money her grandmother was offering. Ikezawa-san's been a prudent person ever since his days as the head of the Okinomiya Municipal Office. Even if those government types paid me a visit, they'd always stay outside. But whenever I offered Ikezawa-san a cup of tea, he'd come inside and carefully listen to what I had to say. He always lent a proper ear to what people had to say. Others should learn from a person like him. The two guests made a show of nodding, making it clear they were paying attention as Oryo reminisced. The sight of them trying not to get on Oryo's bad side was humorous enough to elicit laughter from Mion occasionally. How young was Deputy Mayor Ikezawa's grandson when he died? 11 years old, apparently. Oryo closed her eyes and shook her head lightly, lamenting the loss of such a young life. If I recall correctly, he said he only had one grandchild. How sad. There's nothing worse for a parent than outliving their offspring. You're really nice to other people, Granny. If Shion or I died, would you be this sad? Don't be stupid. Saying something like that is bad luck. Having got the reaction she expected, Mion cackled. The two guests, unsure if they were supposed to laugh along, instead forced awkward smiles. We'll take our leave for today, then. We'll be by tomorrow evening at 5 to pick you up. Until then, please excuse us. After bowing their heads repeatedly, the guests left by the front door. Mion saw them off, waving her little hand goodbye. They're gone. Must be rough for them to pay you a courtesy visit, Granny. It would have been fine if they just broke the news over the phone. Well, it was true that Oryo Sonozaki was a central person for both her relatives and the residents of Hinamizawa village as a whole. As a voting bloc, they numbered in the several thousands. It wasn't hard to imagine the mayor would try to pander to her. Unlike Mion, however, Oryo was looking up longingly at the sky from the veranda. What's the matter? Are you going senile? I just thought that, no matter whose grandchild it was, I'd feel sorry for them. Saying that, she let out a deep sigh. Mion was let down, as normally her grandmother would have scolded her for her attitude. Mion. You know, that minister's grandson. How long has it been since he was abducted? 4 days maybe?
Oreo let out another deep sigh.
He may be the grandchild of our bitter enemy, but I still feel sorry for him.
Really?
That's enough of a warning. We should bring this to an end soon.
The playful expression drained from Mion's face, leaving behind a stern one. And then, as if to ascertain Oreo's will, looked into her eyes. Oreo, expressing her intention with only those eyes, looked back into Mion's.
I want some tea. Could you call for some? Some of that chocolate, too.
Mion gave a small nod, then turned around.
Shimiko-san, are you there? Grandma wants some tea. Could you prepare some?
From far away, a voice responded in the affirmative. Mion, after confirming she'd been heard, picked up the phone and began dialing.
Hello, this is Mion. Yeah. Is my father there?
Sus! But when is she not? I wonder how Sato got all his information. Seems a little strange. Alright, well, that's the end of that chapter. So, we're going to switch over to drawing now. So, give me a minute as I open everything up.